So, I was someone who was heavily against the checkmate system as it did a lot of things I didn't like. Primarily slowing the game down, undoing years of weapon balancing, and encouraging team shooting. Now, this version definitely does two of those, however it also fully keeps the ability to deal with those on top of the benefits that checkmate as a system provides, on top of requiring skill to deal with them. So from the past 2 weeks of playing, I want to talk about what I think the sandbox does right from my point of view, and I want to talk about what I think it does wrong, which I'll mix in with the good stuff. So, first off, matchmaking. It feels great, primarily in comp and control. Comp I'm a bit iffy on because sometimes it feels like I'm putting games with people who literally shouldn't be in my pool, but it is very possible that's just the level of skill for players in the platinum pool and I'm just not meant to be there. There's also the population issue to be aware of. And most of the matches do actually feel pretty balanced. Trials is complete randomness as usual, which sometimes works. I think duo and trios is still a problem, but hopefully they'll work on it. I heard from friends last week and from playing this week that it was bad in both trio and duo, which isn't particularly the best thing. I'm sure they're working on a solution now, considering they did say they're going to give trios more rewards, which will hopefully drag more players into playing trios and duos. In control, it's pretty perfect, I'd say. There are population issues again, so obviously I'm not getting the best matches in the world all the time, but it does feel pretty similar to how the matchmaking was prior to kb&m's implementation, without the downsides of, oh hey, I'm matching people wildly better or worse than me for the entire session, which isn't fun for all skill levels. Lobby balancing also feels a lot better, despite what I was saying earlier about the unbalanced comp teammates. However, things generally feel pretty balanced with a good range of skill levels on each side. Then there's abilities, which didn't get the most major change in the world, but still have been majorly improved. It is pretty much exactly as they described, where it's not detrimental to abilities being active, but does cut down on their usage. It's definitely not perfect, as Void Titan is still far and beyond better than everyone else, with the overshield button scatters suppressing shoulder charge and bubble. However, fights are absolutely based on weapon skill opposed to ability spam now. Roaming supers are also actually useful again, as lots of people have special or shutdown super to instantly kill you out of a Silk Strike or Fist of Havoc. It actually makes these supers worth using now. Hunter also doesn't just feel like instantly throwing, which I, as someone who plays Hunter, enjoys quite a bit. The sandbox in general is also very good, surprisingly. The special meter basically forces you to use your primary, like the name and prize, which is healthy for the game as it stops special jousting, especially in freeze. However, due to how the special meter works, it does make specials bar conditional finality feel a bit useless in my opinion, as unless you're getting majority of the kills you won't get much special, nor will there be much reason to use such special weapon, as most people are currently team shooting with mid to long range weapons such as 120s and 450s. This does mean though that double primary is a legitimate strategy now, and one I've been using quite successfully myself. In comp I've mainly been running the Mercury setup of Heliocentric and Revision Zero, and it works quite well. Works incredibly well actually. So I would heavily recommend using Heliocentric or just double primary in general if you're struggling to find a use for specials in freeze right now. I would also argue that every primary archetype is actually somewhat decent right now, and you can't really go wrong despite some being better than others, as it's mainly your skill at hitting shots or the map that'll change how useful your weapon of choice is. Last week I would have argued Scouts and Helio/SMGs or conditional Igneous. However, this week I'd say it's more of a close range map, so I'd argue for Prosecutor and Conditional being the best overall loadout. I imagine if we got a map like Endless Veil, it'll be largely Prosecutor again and SMGs for the weekend. Which is very good for the sandbox in my opinion, as it'll encourage you to experiment with different weapon types on different maps to find out the best loadout for the general situations you'll be in. One major issue with the sandbox, however, is snipers. I think snipers have been completely pushed out of the game now. With how much people are using longer range primaries and ones that flinch hard with the Emesis nerf, that I'm not saying they should undo, by the way, on top of the very limited special, it kinda just feels like they're a bit useless. While snipers are probably the best special overall if you can actually use them, they aren't really competitive for anyone who isn't amazing with them. To fix this, I wouldn't really change snipers themselves, I would probably just give them more ammo in specifically 6s, so you have more forgiveness for missing shots and therefore allowed to practice with them in a 6s mode before going into freeze. I don't think I want them to actually buff snipers, I just think more ammo would be nice, an extra 2 or 3 shots for example, considering how many factors can cause you to waste ammo, and I want snipers to stay as a risky cross-map one-shot that's actually hard to use, but rewarding. Again, just feel like they need a little help, as there is a definite reason why they dropped from 3 to 5% of all kills in trials, getting at least 1 million kills per week, down to a 1.3 on Burnout, which is a great sniping map with only 297,000 kills, whilst shotguns got nearly 2 million kills last weekend. So I do feel there's a little bit of a problem. Another problem is team shooting. Not enough to where it's ruining the game for me like old Checkmate was, but it's still a thing. Less special and abilities just encourage people to only use their primary and cluster, which can be frustrating to deal with, especially in freeze. However, you can deal with it if you're skilled enough. 1v3s feel impossible to win, but you can, and that's the important bit. Because of how skillful the sandbox has suddenly become, your ability to deal with team shooting and therefore be aggressive relies largely on yourself and making smart plays, which I heavily like. I love that I have to be smart to be able to play how I want, and it encourages me to become a better player and make better plays with my kids. And when those plays work, it actually feels so much more rewarding than it did before. I don't really know how they could deal with team shooting as a general problem, however, but then giving people more special abilities again, which would nullify all the good Checkmate does, so really I don't have a clue on what to do with that myself. So far that's kind of just been my only 2 issues. So back to the positive stuff. Trials is actually fun to play again. Passes of Persistence does a lot for my drive to play the mode as a solo player, as I can go in and enjoy myself knowing I'm going to get eventually rewarded for my time. And the same stands with Comp now with the weekly weapon, alloy, and artifice armor. However, for Trials I would probably just remove the practice pool if Persistence is going to require playing in the standard pool, as I don't see a reason for splitting the pools at that point, since who isn't going to be getting a passage of Persistence if they aren't going for Flawless? Even if they're going for Rep, I still think it would be better to combine the pools, as you will still end up probably playing the same people anyway, as I would imagine the majority would probably have been in the practice pool. And in comp, I would probably just make it so Artifice armor is a guaranteed drop on win, with the higher comp ranks just making it so the armor is guaranteed to drop with better and better stats with your rank to still encourage going for them. So I think that's basically everything I wanted to mention, and my thoughts on them as a first impressions for the last 2 weeks of the sandbox. To summarise, I think despite a few issues, this update has absolutely saved PvP. It is slower but more competitive, skillful, rewarding, less annoying, and more importantly, fun. And I would say the fun factor is what is mainly important to me. I am very happy with the state of PvP currently, and I hope the few things that are issues will get ironed out before final shape. And we should end up with basically the best PvP we've ever had. Even better than Forsaken, honestly. Hopefully this will also get extended to the rest of the game, and Destiny won't get shut down, so the addiction can take me for another couple of years as well. We'll find out on Tuesday when they reveal Into the Light. Until then, that is all for me today. We'll likely go back to the usual weapon reviews after this. However, I don't know if I'll get a video out next week because things are happening that I'd rather not discuss. But I'll try. If you enjoyed this, like, comment, sub, give me ideas for videos, and adios.
No, it's for the MLG plays. My hope will never die. My hope will never die.